I was delighted to be asked by Ian to speak to you today. Thanks, Ian, and thank you to you for choosing to attend my presentation. Now, I know according to Julie Andrews, I should start at the very beginning, a very good place to start. But actually, Julie, sorry, my start point is in fact my end point. By the end of my presentation, I want you to believe it is within our gift to change those depressing statistics that say only 6% of people with learning disabilities and 12% of autistic people have paid employment. So, what's our journey going to look like from start to end? I'd like to give you an analogy. If I cast my mind back to the balmy summer evenings of 2019, from time to time I would make the 35-mile trip east to west from my home in Folkestone on the Kent coast to visit a good friend of mine who lives in Maidstone. Rather than using the boring old M20, I'd go cross-country, passing through charming Kent villages on the way. I don't have access to any sort of sat-nav, so I'd always rely on my trusted road atlas. The problem was, the most sensible route on the atlas paled into insignificance compared to the avenues of adventure taking me to Great Chart, Little Chart, Betherston, Brissenden, Biddenden, Benenden, Buggleston, and Underling Green. And yes, occasionally I would get a little bit lost. But remember, I was going east to west, and these were lovely summer evenings, so I could always follow the sun. I'm telling you this story just in case now and again you start thinking to yourself, where's Richard going with this? I can assure you there will be a reason for my diversion. And to use a phrase I never thought I'd use in a presentation like this, we will get to Maidstone. What I can say for certain about my presentation is that as much as I can, I'm going to replace my talking head with useful graphics and illustrations, and I will take you into the schools, colleges and day services where I've run the My Employment Passport course in the past and that I'm making available online to everyone from September. So I'm giving a big round of applause to all the parents and young people for giving me permission to use their images. Okay, let's get started. I want my presentation to result in young autistic people, young people with ADHD, young people with learning disabilities, in fact, young people with any hidden disabilities in your communities getting paid employment in the future. But in the future is a key phrase here. Right now, not only is coronavirus almost certainly wiping out any chance of people with learning disabilities getting new jobs, it's also having a huge impact on those that already have jobs. These are all young people supported into paid work by my colleague Mel and I over the last 5 years. Only 2 out of the 6 have not had their jobs severely affected by COVID-19, resulting in furlough, a severe reduction of hours, or redundancy. So, because now is not the time in a proactive fashion to support people into paid jobs in the short term, it's the perfect time for the powers that be to rethink our overall long-term strategy. And within that context, I appreciate the Chancellor has a tough job right now. Should more government money be invested in supporting people with additional needs into paid work? Yes, I believe it should. I would love that. From time to time over the years, that's what governments say they've done. And who knows, maybe this government might make a similar announcement now with the devastating effects COVID-19 continues to have on our economy. If they do, almost certainly they will put money into the system we've always had, the one they think will put things right. By pure coincidence, I started work in the sector at exactly the same time the system was introduced, the mid-1990s. The stats you see to the right of me have gone up and down a little in the 25 years that I've done my job, but they've barely changed at all. I believe if you support children between 6 and 16, you hold the keys of change. I'll explain more later, but right now I need to tell you what the system is, because this is what most of your young people and their parents can look forward to, or rather, not look forward to. Both Labour and Conservative governments have tweaked the system, but it's your standard stuff, you know, commissioning strategies, differential payment processes, New Deal, flexible New Deal, invitation to tenders, supply chains, contracted package areas, end-to-end providers, non-end-to-end providers, contracted providers, non-contracted providers, prime providers, pan-disability providers, provider payments, provider engagement meetings, provider non-engagement meetings, I'm joking on that one, outcome-based funding, statutory referral organisations, subcontractors, work preparation, work step, work choice, the work programme, the work and health programme, work trials, work-related groups, and special service vehicles, which, if you're interested, aren't minibuses, but are defined as legal entities created to fulfil narrow, specific, or temporary objectives. You learn something new every day. You'll be picking up, I'm sure, a tone of cynicism in my delivery, which perhaps is a little unfair on the DWP, bearing in mind a fair proportion of the job successes I've been involved in have used their funding. There's one DWP programme which, whilst incredibly clunky in terms of administration, is incredibly useful: Access to Work. I've lost count of the number of times I've used it over the years, whether that's to provide a job coach or some work-based mentoring. I'm not going to explain it here, but there are more details in the free 1-hour tutorial you can access via my speaker page on Getting It Right Live. I highly recommend you check out Access to Work, and please don't be put off by the admin. Your organisation might have a staff member who is struggling with a part of their job because of their dyslexia, ADHD, or any other disability, hidden or visible. There's a good chance there will be Access to Work funding to help, be it for a piece of kit, some fancy software, or best of all, support from a real person. I used to manage an Access to Work contract that supplied these real people, so I know how effective it can be. Okay, let's get back to the system. I've given you my version of what it is, so now let's look at the why. Why has it failed so miserably to support people with additional needs into paid employment for the last 25 years and continues to fail them? What's the age group of the children or young people that you support? If you're a parent, how old is your child or children? For the sake of the illustration, it's easiest if I imagine the little dude on the left to be aged 9. Thinking about the people I've supported over the years, 19 is a perfect age for a first paid job, so let's put that number on the right, leaving a neat 10-year window in the middle that we can open up to see what's there. And I'll put in the stat to keep reminding us what this is all about, and I'll put in some information that most of you will be familiar with. We have mainstream schools and we have special schools, with or without sixth forms, and we have local authorities that might play a significant part in decisions made as to where the young person's journey starts. We have universities and we have colleges of further education. So, what comes next? Drum roll, please. Ooh, look, it's the system. And as you can see, it's more than just the DWP. You see, employability programs for people with additional needs are funded by the DfE and by local authorities too. So that's got to be a good thing, hasn't it? Well, yes, but not if people can't understand how these are meant to work together. This was my home in Wandsworth from 1995 to 2006, where I was the manager. I had good pals here and here, but these guys wouldn't even speak to me. These people, lovely though they were 25 minutes away in the Surrey countryside, and the only time I saw these people was when we'd turn up on the same day at Wandsworth Council once every 3 years. The clarity of one such meetup stays with me to this day. They made their presentation for funding at 10 a.m. I made ours at 11:30 a.m. As they walked out, I walked in, and we smiled politely at each other. The council could only fund one of us, but if they lost, they'd be able to offer a small service anyway, because they were a large national charity and had plenty of money in the bank, whereas we were a tiny local charity and didn't. Now, I would put all these organisational gripes behind me if the people who actually had to use the system ever understood it, but they didn't, and very few of their parents did either. Thinking about my Wandsworth days, of course there were positives, but these were always about the people, never the programmes. I knew a handful of fantastic disability employment advisors here, and my colleagues at the council gave us wonderful support over the years. I can't speak highly enough about them. But my criticism of the system remains. The system's changed very little between 2006 and today. A programme of boxes with boxes full of programmes. That brings me on to the second reason why the system fails. The more boxes you have, the more gaps you have. The more gaps you have, the more likely young people are to fall through the gaps. In my experience, these are people with mild learning disabilities, ADHD or autistic people, with or without a diagnosis. I understand the principle of welfare to work, which more or less says if the government spends money in the short term on creating and running programmes to support unemployed people into work, in the long term everybody gains. The people gain because now they've got jobs, and the government gains because it's good for society and they've got money in the coffers because they're saving on paying out unemployment benefits once the savings recoup the cost of the programmes. Fine, but here's the thing. If the government creates a system with so many boxes and so many gaps and people fall in these gaps, not only does this system not save the government any money, it also starts costing the government money, serious money. Mental health services become stretched to breaking point, homelessness goes up and crime figures rise. It's so depressing, and if you're feeling depressed right now, I'm really sorry, and I'm even more sorry as now I'm going to depress you more. My third reason why our current system is inadequate for people with additional needs is a reason very few people think about, simply because it never occurs to them, but it's nagged away at me for years. Government thinking says this: spend some money on schemes for people with learning disabilities, get as many as you can into paid jobs, and that's it. Job done. Except it isn't. The Business Disability Forum has statistical evidence that people with learning disabilities stay in their jobs 3.5 times longer than their colleagues without learning disabilities. So that's good, isn't it? Or is it? You and I have the choice that if we want, we can change jobs. We have the skills, experience and contacts, meaning that usually, if we work for an organisation, we secure our new job before we resign from our old job. Some people don't have that choice. I recall one young man aged 24 who was convinced that the only thing that was holding him back from promotion at work was that he couldn't read or write. He had stacked shelves at a supermarket for 5 years. So he wanted to quit his job and go back to college. That would have meant no benefits for 3 months. The system was penalising him for wanting to read and write, leaving me to write you a sentence with a very uncomfortable sense of irony. Of the pitiful low figure of 6% of people with learning disabilities in paid employment, there's every possibility that 90% of these have, quite literally, a job for life. Some of them might think that's a good thing, but I wonder if somebody asked you, let's say when you were 24, if you wanted the same job for life, what your answer would be. Tried as I might, I didn't have any answers for the young man, and he quit his job. I need to move on, and I promise in less than 3 minutes I will cheer you up. But my fourth and final reason why the system's wrong is a crucial one for me. I've left it till last because it's the turning point towards a brighter future. Full disclosure, whilst I'm more than happy with the word specialist, I really dislike the word special when we talk about our young people. I get the reason why the term special school is used. It distinguishes it from mainstream school. But are young people ever asked how they feel about it? I spent 3 years, 1 day a week, at a wonderful school led by an inspirational head teacher supported by a fantastic staff team. It happened to be a special school. One day, I decided to have a half-hour chat with a group of 16-year 11s to find out what they thought about the special word. And we ended up by doing a hands up if you like it, hands up if you don't like it kind of survey. Don't like it, 1, hands down. We just call it school, one of them said to me. If we overuse the word special in the years a young person spends in education, then it sends out the wrong message. A significant proportion of what I'll call Joe Public assume if you go to a special school, then you're going to go onto some sort of special scheme afterwards to help you get a job. A proportion of that Joe Public will work in human resources. True story. I had phoned up one of the large supermarkets in a town in West Sussex on behalf of a young man who didn't have the confidence to do it himself. I got through to a woman in personnel, and once I had explained a little about the young man and asked her how I could download a job application form for him, she said to me, "Oh, we have a special scheme to employ those sorts of people." Thank you for staying with me. We've now reached the end point of the first part of my presentation called What Needs to Change, also known as Getting It Wrong. Enough of all that. Think back to your life up to the age of about 16. What was home like? What was school like? Can you remember any of the dreams you had for the future? Now, think of the last networking meeting you went to before COVID came along. The last one I went to, I was asked 2 or 3 times by different people I'd never met before that time-honoured question, what do you do? I don't think I've ever answered that question the same way twice. You see, part of what I do is I write stories, write music, record music, take photos and make videos. By themselves, they've never made me much money, but that's not important. Just as this is now the heart and soul of my presentation, those 5 things are my heart and soul. I've been writing music and stories since, I would say, 1974, powered by a deli of dreams any 12-year-old might have, but made possible by having a piano at home and a wonderful English teacher at school who never stopped encouraging me. Another large part of what I do is I support autistic people and people with learning disabilities into paid employment, and I've done that since 1994. Over the last 10 years or so, I've combined my 2 passions, the latter with the former. So now let's show you an example of how I do that. I first met Blake when he was a Year 13 student at Crawley College.
These are my lovely classmates. They're easy to get on with. This is my mate Max. As you can see, he's a bit of a team player, and Tim, can't get started on him. And Ben Foley, not forgetting Hettle himself, and me. As this isn't about them, it's about me. Blake Edwards, the one and only.
The one and only video CV I made in 2013 was Blake's. Not that video CVs wouldn't have been appropriate for the other lads in the class, but Blake had the potential to be video gold. Why? Because the camera loved him, he had and continues to have a fantastic work ethic, and I knew at the end of the academic year he'd want a paid job. He enjoyed college, but he always told me he was keen to be moving on.
Moving on? What does the future have for me? I was thinking maybe a job in computers, as I'm good with Excel, Word, and most of all, PowerPoint.
PowerPoint. He is fantastic with computers. Any sort of program on computers, add Excel, PowerPoint, Word, looking on the internet and researching information. He's able to do all these things. Also, he's a student who is quite happy to help other students, especially with computer programs and other work on a computer. Very friendly, very likeable person. He's one of these people who you instantly like.
So Sean, what do you like about Blake?
He's funny, he's witty, he's kind, he's helpful, and he's a good laugh to laugh at.
Let me just get a tissue, that broke my heart. I'm so happy.
And in terms of Blake being a good future employee for someone, what do you think?
I think Blake would be actually the perfect employee because he is somebody who is adaptable, he is considerate, he's thoughtful, he can act on his own initiative. He's someone I feel would be, I would recommend highly to any employer who's thinking about taking on a young person. Blake is certainly the person that I would say employ him if he ever comes along to you.
And from that point, we brought the video CV to an end within 30 seconds, and our call to action was to invite employers to contact me via my website. The 4-minute complete film called Blake Edwards Video CV is still available on YouTube. I have shown you most of Blake's video CV not to demonstrate the value of the approach, useful though that is, but to give you the context of how I started working with Blake and his lovely classmates. You were probably hoping that you would never see this again, but watch, in 7 steps I'm going to take you from my representation of getting it wrong to getting it right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. From 1995 to 2000, I considered myself to be an employment support professional. I never really thought about the title much. It pleased my parents because instead of years of writing songs that publishers never wanted and delivering pizzas that thankfully everyone wanted, I was finally professional at something. But as the 21st century dawned, I woke up to the fact that what I really was a key supporter. And that's what my colleagues at Wandsworth Rathbone, now called Generate, were too. We got to know people in their communities. We found out what support people got at home and, crucially, what further support they needed if there were any problems. We learnt about their skills and passions, who could get to our youth clubs independently by public transport and who couldn't. You get the picture. Here's me dropping in to see Francis in Tooting. Don't be confused because I've taken a big green light that I then plonk on the table. You could guess the year is 2003, but in a moment you'll see my phone, so maybe that will help you out on that one.
Now, can you tell me on this map, where's London? Do you know where London is on that map? Where do you think London is? No, that's the south coast, that's the sea. I've got 4 cards here. You've got to turn one over, Francis. Turn over a card. Any card. Right. Can you read that?
So it's got B in it.
It's got a B, yeah. It starts with a B.
It says
it's an O. It's quite tricky, isn't it?
Yeah,
So shall I read it for you? Yeah. Okay, we're going to Bognor Regis. How cool is that? Bognor Regis.
You rarely get to go to Bognor Regis when you're an employment support professional, but if you're a key supporter, what better way to spend a bright winter Saturday than take a train to the coast with somebody that wants to go there too? Francis has plenty of skills. He's a good artist, for example, but he lacks many skills too. He has little concept of time or money, and his independent travelling skills are limited to the few bus routes he feels confident with in southwest London. The flower Francis, at the age of 23, has reached pretty much his maximum height in terms of his skills, whilst of course small progress is made every year. And sure, employers want skills, but what else do they want? They want qualities, which is handy because Francis has bucket loads.
He's a lovely, lively character. He's always smiling.
He's very energetic. If I could bottle his energy up, I certainly would, and have some for myself.
Punctual, enthusiastic.
Really cool guy, always got a smile on his face, really good at his job.
And when he's here, the place is a much happier place, and it's really great to have him working here.
Polite, sweet, hard worker, and I love him. I love him too much.
Oh, God.
Everything I read.
The My Employment Passport approach starts with community, the young person in the centre of their community, paid jobs in the community, and a key supporter, paid or unpaid, making the connections. I'll be totally honest, it's not an original idea, I stole it. You see, many years before us employment support professionals drove into town in our swanky special service vehicles, there were key supporters doing the job just as well. Better, actually. Who were they? Family members, extended family members, friends, neighbours, friends of neighbours, and neighbours of friends. A large proportion of you will be watching this from home, but you'll be wearing your work hat. Imagine it's got a little sticker on it that tells people your job title. You'll probably be watching more presentations later, still wearing your work hat. But later this evening, I imagine you having a Zoom call with your niece or nephew. They started at college in September, they're struggling with online learning, and they're missing their friends. You're wearing your home hat now, and what does the sticker say? Key supporter. You help steer your niece or nephew in the right direction, meaning that you can celebrate the good stuff together, but it's the tricky stuff that can be the make or break stuff. Let's imagine it's February 2022. You're having a Zoom chat not with your niece or nephew, but with the son of one of your closest friends. You've known the young man for so long and so well, he's almost family. He has a mild learning disability, and if you were wearing your work hat, you'd recognise him as being somewhere in that grey area between mainstream provision and specialist provision. Anyway, he's managed to get a job interview in retail, but he's anxious about it. The interview is on a Saturday. He asks you if you can go with him, and of course you can. At this point, the system, even if it had worked to a very small degree on the run-up, would have failed because it's based on services. Employment support services are shut on Saturdays. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm not suggesting we knock down my old home or decrease the value of what I call specialist work environments. There might be one of these near you, perhaps a cafe project staffed by people with learning disabilities. These types of initiatives are the heart and soul of communities, so their place goes right here. And we will put the specialist support agency here. In my model, the paid staff at both places are also key supporters, and if you drop in to see them, because your niece or nephew is receiving their support, they'll welcome you with open arms. The cafe will probably even offer you a free coffee, but please offer to pay for it, they need the income. When I lived here, I loved it when people like you dropped in. In early 2013, my organisation, A Potential Diamond, had no funding. I still lived in Wandsworth, but I longed for the green spaces of my youth, and I needed to focus on an area where the labour market could provide a healthy number of entry-level jobs. I'd figured out that I could work for nothing for 6 months, and at that point, I would approach West Sussex County Council with the evidence I believed would persuade them to fund something more sustainable. So I cooked up plans with an old pal, Nigel Colgate, at Crawley College. I called it Making Plans with Nigel. Thank you, I'm here all week, folks. Nigel was head of supported learning, and he was in his last year before retirement. To me, he always came over more as old-school community worker than college bigwig weighed down by the pressures of targets, funding and monthly reports. He selected a group of lads with a wide range of abilities, dreams and challenges, and didn't ask me for a course outline, projected outcomes and first 5 session plans because he knew I wouldn't have any. He was right, I didn't, but I did know what my first question in my first session would be. Fast forward to the session itself. Who wants a paid job when they leave college? All hands went up, and at that point, I took them down to the student cafeteria. They chatted to each other, I watched, and as the time passed, I moved around the group, saying to each one individually, I'm glad you put your hand up. How do you want me to help you then? Then, the next day, I gave Nigel a session plan to cover the following week, and that was the only structure we stuck to. This course was the earliest version of the My Employment Passport course that I'm going to explain later. Up to now, I've given you my vision of the My Employment Passport approach. Let me share a little more about what I learned by supporting Blake and his pals. As the weeks went by and they began to see me as a key supporter, not a tutor, they accepted an approach they'd never experienced before. Key supporters have more time to meet up with parents than tutors, and they can do that at home as well as college. This was one of Blake's classmates, Richard, who lived in a tiny village called Storrington, deep in the West Sussex countryside. I spent 3 or 4 sunny afternoons there with him and his mum, and we worked together as a team. They love good team players at care homes. I asked Richard to give me a thumbs up after we went for an interview together at this one because I was certain he'd be offered the job. The only difficulties I could envisage for the future was the journey, both in terms of time and logistics. This was because the employer was in Crawley, not 5 minutes walk away from the station like the college, but 25 minutes walk away. Richard was offered the job and he accepted it. In the first year, his employer knew the journey, especially in winter months, was problematic, but they also knew they had a diamond employee and they wanted to keep him, and before long arranged a transfer to another care home in the group. This one was in Pulborough. 3 years ago, his employer arranged a third transfer to Horsham. This was to coincide with Richard's move to independent living, a flat not too far from the centre of town, within walking distance of the care home. Here he is, outside his front door. He sent me these selfies yesterday, and the last one says it all. He gets a little low-key support from services, ensuring any hiccups of independent living are sorted out, and of course, he has mum and dad as backup. As for Blake, I wasn't his only key supporter. His brother John noticed that B&Q were opening a new store in Burgess Hill, so he dropped into their recruitment centre, had a chat with them, and they watched Blake's video CV with John sitting right there. I got a call the same day and, after supporting Blake at the interview, celebrated a second job offer success in the Making Plans with Nigel initiative.
So say hello to camera.
Hi, camera. Morning, Blake. How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, you're on time?
Yeah, well...
My Employment Passport The Approach looks like this. My Employment Passport The Course looks like this. The graphic now has 10 what I call flowers of foundation, and it's how these flowers grow that determine how and when the young person moves into their first paid job. The flowers represent the big things in the young person's life, for example, the support I get from home and communication, and if you run one session a week, the whole course lasts a year. The ever-expanding video resource bank, quite a few of the videos featuring Blake, means that young people learn how to get paid jobs by education through inspiration. There are also session plans and video tutorials for group facilitators and key supporters. What social and community value can be put on the lives of Richard and Blake now that they've had paid jobs for 7 years? If local authorities want monetary value, always a tricky one to calculate, well, in 7 years, the government has saved in ESA payments alone this much. Sorry, I'll make the font bigger. This much. And to remind the money people within government, I ran the Making Plans with Nigel initiative for free. I was once told by one of my best pals, who was also the drummer in my first band, that after about 10 minutes conversations, some people find me a little full on. I think that was a bit rich coming from him, a drummer, but he might have had a point. And as you've had me talking at you 10 to the dozen for well over half an hour now, I thought you might appreciate a rest. So, no introductions are needed. From 2013 to 2021, here's Blake. Hey mate, how you doing? It's really good to see you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty well. So listen, Blake, I've explained to the people watching this video about education through inspiration by showing them how I play your video CV to young people. But you take the inspiration thing one stage further. What do you do?
I come into the schools and the colleges with you.
Yes, you do. And we use your acting skills to stage an entrance, because the last time the young people saw your face was in 2013, when I'll be honest, mate, you looked a little more fresh-faced than you do now.
Blake, how are you? Blake? I could well be. Nice to meet you all. I'm the one and only guy you see on the CV. Is there any questions you'd like to ask me?
I've been waiting for this day.
So what happens next is that introductions are made, and for a few minutes we all chat about this and that. Then we start properly. You read your mum's story to them. I've got the original here, and you've said to me that you're happy to read the copy I sent you so that all the people watching this can hear about your story. So Blake, can you read it for me, please?
I can. When Blake was 2, I noticed something was different about him. He would be obsessed with the same pattern every day.
He would cover his ears to noises, and he is very sensitive to smells. At the age of 4, I got help and support from the family centre to do some parenting skills to help me manage Blake. When Blake turned 5, he started school. Several times I got called in. I got called in on one occasion. He was under the table barking like a dog and refused to come out. Another time, he cut off a girl's bow off her dress and would be unkind to children who would try to be kind to him. When he was 7, I invited one of his friends for a play day. He made his friend stand outside of his bedroom door because he said his friend was making his room messy. At about 8, he was referred to CAMS, and with the help of them, we managed to get Blake statemented. They said he had a mixture of Asperger's, dyspraxia, ADHD, and emotional behavioural disorder. I was unsure about the future. Blake struggled in mainstream school. His ears were sensitive to noise. Sometimes, during a fire drill, he would run around the school, flapping his arms, saying he was going to get burnt because he took everything literally. I changed Blake's school, and after years of struggling, he finally got the help and support he needed. When Blake left school, he went to college, and with their support and mine, he managed to do very well. He met Richard, which is that gentleman there, at college, and he even made a video CV. He was given a part-time job at B&Q, and nearly 8 years later, he's still there. He passed his driving test and he has a car. He is doing some acting and producing a film. He goes to the gym. Richard and Blake still stay in touch. Blake goes to schools and colleges with Richard and talks to the students with learning disabilities and autism. It's been a struggle but rewarding. I am very positive about the future. Having autism does not mean he can't lead a normal life because he's living through.
Thank you. How does reading that make you feel?
Great.
Yeah, it makes me feel great, actually. Listen, Blake, we can't go into schools and colleges at the moment, but what COVID has done for everyone in a positive way, I guess, is open up the possibilities of what Zoom can do. This is our first Zoom catch-up. People have seen footage of you speaking to just 5 young people at one time. Imagine a year from now via Zoom, you could be speaking to, I don't know, 500 young people. Are you up for that? I mean, how do you feel about that?
That's like an amazing opportunity.
Listen, Blake, you've been a complete star. You always are. Thank you so much. Say hello to your mum and John for me, yeah?
Will do.
I'll catch up with you soon.
Take care. Bye.
Yeah, bye. What am I in relation to you?
Key support.
Key supporter, aren't I?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
You help us get into jobs.
Yeah. And do you know what? Do you know what? In this group, there would only be one other young person apart from Marie who would be able to remember the term key supporter. But that's not important. They, just like Marie, remember what key supporters do and who they are. And if Marie didn't believe it before, she believes it now. She believes she can get a paid job in the future. So what have you learnt from Blake's story?
I've learned that it doesn't matter if my maths is excellent or my English is strong, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter?
No.
It's not going to stop you getting a job, is it?
No.
The My Employment Passport course works perfectly for FE students, as it does for Year 11s and Year 10s. I have run some introductory sessions for Year 9s too. But how about younger children? Well, this is where it gets really exciting. This is why I said 35 minutes ago that if you support younger children, you hold the keys of change. The My Employment Passport course is useful as a physical resource with bits of paper, job cards, qualities cards, glue sticks and blue tack, all things young people with additional needs will always find useful. This flower here, however, the What's the Best Way I Learn and Apply Information flower, benefits by having clever tech help the flower grow, and PAGS is very clever tech indeed. We connected with each other a while back via Twitter. PAGS is the perfect partner for My Employment Passport. In 1983, I almost got a job as a tape-op at a London recording studio. In the music studio business, this was considered an entry-level job, and in fact, I clearly remember the job ad said, must be able to make the tea, which most people agree is a pretty useful skill to have when you think about any workplace environment. I'm sure you make the tea at work plenty of times. So, let's say you're teaching a group of Key Stage 2 children the very first steps on how to make a cup of tea, and I'm in the room with you. No kettles or boiling water, you'll do that bit. The children are focusing on opening a new box of tea bags, taking one tea bag out of the box and putting it in the cup. I observed two of the children, let's call them Steph and Steve. Steph's quite limited fine motor skills are creating problems for her, while Steve, he has the ability to open the box, but he's only interested in trying to grab Steph's. And you, as their teacher, have the skills and strategies to address both these issues, not only because you have the training, but also because of your knowledge of and what works best for Steph and Steve as two unique children. The best way to record how Steph and Steve learn and apply information, including how they open the box of tea bags, is via PAGS on the cloud. The beauty of it is, not only can teachers do this, parents can also do it too. That's it. Practice opening boxes at home and use PAGS to track the journey. So, now you're seeing my complete vision for a complete employment passport for Steph and Steve. As they are unique children, different to each other, so their employment passports will be unique too. But they both go the same way. Start at Key Stage 2, use PAGS, continue through school, introduce at the right time the course element of My Employment Passport, and continue into college. Then reach destination, a paid job. Whoever their key supporters are at this point will know what tasks they can do now. They will probably have a feeling what future tasks might create a few problems, but because there's an employment passport, they'll know how to find a solution. Please visit www.myemploymentpassport.com and register your interest if you'd like progress updates to prepare yourself for when the course itself is launched in September. The website is under construction, but you can still register. The free 1-hour tutorial, available on my speaker profile page at Getting It Right Live, gives you more details about My Employment Passport, including a little more information about some of the 10 flowers of foundation I haven't had time to give you today. I also suggest you check out PAGS, which you could start using straight away. One reason that My Employment Passport works is because the key supporter understands this flower here, the what's the best way I learn and apply information flower. Not the most concise flower name in the garden, granted, but this one's trickier still. It has a title and an introduction, and my desire is always for the young person to believe that the two live together in the same flower head. The title is My Stuff. The introduction is my acceptance of the support I need for things I find hard now and might find hard in the future, or might find hard in the future. Some young people like to give my stuff a name, like autism or learning disability, and some prefer not to. Some would quite like to give it a name, but aren't sure what the name should be. Some don't think it's a flower that applies to them at all. The key supporter might take some time to understand the young person's relationship with this flower, but once they've done this, the relationship forms a crucial part of how the young person is supported into work. My Employment Passport takes young people to their first paid job in the easiest and smoothest way possible when they understand as fully as possible these two flowers, just like their key supporters do. This is, I suppose, my ultimate dream for the initiative. This is my complete vision. If you share all or just part of it, then we can move to a place where the employment rates for people with additional needs are proportionate to those without. You will have your own individual way of making a cup of tea so that you enjoy it fully, but before that, you have to open the box of tea bags and, like Steph and Steve, you'll have your own individual way of doing that too. I'm not asking you to think outside the box. I'm just asking you to open a new one.
Hey, it's Ian here at Studio TV. Thank you so much for joining us here at Getting It Right for Me Live. Let me ask you a really quick question. Are you here because you are hoping to develop your skills and your knowledge and all your learning and understanding around supporting and caring for children and young people with special educational needs and disabilities? I assume that's what you've come here for. We hope that you're enjoying your time here with us. There's some amazing people, and we're so grateful for them coming and being part of this. And we're so grateful for you to be joining us as well. There's a couple of things I just really quickly wanted to introduce you to. First of all, don't forget that you can upgrade your ticket at any time to one of the paid tickets, which we try to keep the price as low as we possibly can, just to cover what we need to help out the speakers a little bit and make sure this event is as good as it can be. What that means is you can access the live Q&A sessions that we're running throughout the event, and you can access all the sessions for up to a year afterwards if you buy one of those paid tickets. Check out the whole school ones. How that works is if you book a whole school ticket, and you can pay online or you can drop us a line and we'll issue an invoice and we'll sort it all out. That's absolutely fine. But we'll then make it possible for all your staff to be able to access all the sessions here at Getting It Right for Me Live this year. So do hope that's helpful. The other thing I want to mention is, and there are lots of members joining us this week, so thank you so much to those of you who are members, but we have put together, if you're looking to go deeper and access ongoing support and help and training, either as an individual, as a parent, as a professional supporting someone with additional needs, in a school or educational setting, or from a professional point of view, we have put together here at Studio TV with Lynn McCann and her team at Reach Out ASC a fantastic membership that starts at just £10 a month and includes a wide range of courses to help you support those in your care. There's a load of resources and tools, printable things that you can use to work with those children and support them. And there's more content being added all the time. One of my favorite parts of the membership is there is a peer group community that's built into that. So you can ask questions of Lynn and her team and your peers, built right into that membership as well. As I say, it starts at just £10 a month. Whole school memberships are there. We're offering trust-wide memberships, and local authorities have started to get in touch and offer this to their staff across a range of schools as well. We would love for you to join our community. If you've got any questions on that, drop us a line, but very much hope to see you there. And thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the